Yeah, well, Ralph here. And if I look tired and or seem tired, it's because I am. And you're like, but it's a reasonable time. Yeah, that's why. It's because normally I'd be working at this reasonable time. Turns out they don't do certifications and certifications and training at what I would consider more reasonable hours. Yeah, I still haven't cleaned all this up. We do have a new item. I posted some older videos the past couple days while I've been doing this training after I got through the backlog. And, well, the case is coming for the M1, so those can take the case they're supposed to be in. These can go back to their home. Those are the MDR V6s. These have got to get put away. I'm not going to do that in this video, though. Jeez. When you don't get a lot of sleep for multiple days in a row, or sleep and are awake way off your schedule, you just kind of have a mild headache all the time. At least I did. So, wow. I was going to show you this package, but it has like multiple shipping labels. Using CW&T's herring blade to open this up. That might give you an indication of what type of product. There we go. My orange headlamp. I don't know if I'm going to put that in the car or if I'm going to put it in my IT bag instead of the Army Tech. I'm not sure yet. Let me know what you guys would do. I might still need the... So the whole point of this herringbone blade is to be like an art knife. If you look at like a Japanese art knife, they have the much thinner, smaller blades. Many people would consider something like this an art knife. If you look at the blade size versus the herring blade, right? Huge difference, right? If you look at the actual size of the knife, and especially the thickness, much smaller. So this is not designed for strength, you know, like something like AVE Gen 1 with copper mod is, you know, size difference here. 25 mil, I believe, 18 mil, and I don't remember what these little guys are. I use these all the time in art. My grandpa still had a bunch of blades for the small one from when he did printmaking, or printmaking, all that sort of stuff. Because he'd be cutting stuff, stencils, and I say stencils, it's probably more like what do you want to call that stuff? I'm tired. It's for doing the cover up for doing like I was gonna say printing. Duh. No, for like film. I forget, they even use it for etching CPUs and stuff, where you cover it up and you actually only expose a certain area, and that actually etches it in. Same thing, you do the same thing in printmaking, in film processing, I'm forgetting what it is, but often you have to cut either the film that goes over, you have to, cut out or trace something. All that sort of, so that's my grandpa had those, is he actually had little refills that had their own place for the broken, like you break it off into it and it would hold the sharps for you, as well as holding like 10 blades or something of those smaller ones. So he had like, I think 2 packs left that he gave me when I was going through design school, industrial, like in art classes and that sort of stuff. And actually one of them that was like, like you kind of have to take always in college, is just like, okay, it's not part of your specific track, right? But you have to take like just some entry-level art courses. Like certain ones you have to take to a certain level, like as in like say 2 levels or 3 levels or something like that, or other ones that are just like, yeah, take 3 entry-level ones. Well, took printmaking, took photography. I think I was planning on going to doing one of the more advanced ones for that as well. But we actually did do film photography and film processing, that sort of stuff. So that's why I had those. But that's where it's like why he would have that as well, as and why you would have this in general, or why AVE made this guy, is when you're actually working on stuff and it dulls, it's far quicker to just snap one of those off and keep going than it is to change a blade. All depends on what you're doing. If you're doing a lot of cutting, it is. Like I said, when I was doing art stuff, yeah. I mean, even in like, not in the act of drawing would you use that, but like in drawing related things. Cutting the paper off the notebook, notepad. That just general things, sharpening pencils, you'd use the art knife, stuff like that. Just a general use, general purpose. Now personally around here, I would rather use something more like a utility blade, but I could see if you always need something very sharp, or you at least benefit from it, how snapping the blade off is far easier than even flipping one of these around and then having to keep swapping it out. All depends on what you're doing, right? That was a sidetrack there. But using CW&T's herring blade, they basically tried to make, and they got these custom OLFA blades made that have these notches in, so it locks into that notch up there. It will work without these specific blades. It's only being held in by that magnet then and your fingy, so like you can just hold it. They had to buy a ton of blades though to get the custom one, so you can pick them up readily. Often I'll just toss them in my order when I order other stuff. So what do we all have in here? Okay, we got a packing slip. You guys don't need to see that. Oh, I had to fix this actually. So see where it says engraving text the prophesist? Yeah, that is important because I actually used a some of you may have seen the video. I ordered my latest key wrangler from CW&T, and I have a personalized discount code. Like I did testing on the herring blade and a bunch of stuff, so I have a personalized discount code for them. You see how this is personalized with the prophesist, right? Well, when they changed their store, somehow the coupon code ended up getting printed on the packing slip where the engraving was supposed to be. So when they went to engrave it, oh, they personalized it to my personal coupon code. And I was joking with him. I'm like, yeah, you did personalize it. That is a highly personalized thing. Like as in, that might be like what you have my username in your system as. So highly personal, but not what I was looking for. and they actually I actually saw the new packing slip, and they updated the packing slip. So, what did we originally start ordering, or how did I get back on their website? Well, because of this. This is the CW&T Studio Sketchbook. I have the original. I've seen other people that have them as well. High quality paper out of Japan, made in Japan. Lay flat exposed spine, great for sketching. What's cool about this one, I mean, this is something that they had somebody request where they're like, I really like the quality of your sketchbook, right? But can you tell what might have been missing on their old one? And no, it's not the orange that's so friggin' bright that the camera probably doesn't pick it up correctly. It is, that's a grid, right? So this is now grid paper. Now, it's not as good as dot paper, so I got to get them to make this in dots next. I might message them and be like, hey, I know you had that. Depending on how the grid paper goes, you should make a dot paper one, because in my opinion that would be the superior one, and I could design this front circle on here with the dots rather than a grid. So I just thought I would support them because the paper they use in this is very, very nice. I don't know that my previous one came in a sleeve like this. I'm sure I have it on video. No idea if that's uploaded to the channel, because that's years old. But CW&T, you're like, what's so special about them? Well, I'm not going to say they were the ones that started the machine pen craze, but as far as my knowledge and history goes, they were. And specifically, the Hi-tec-c, because that was the darling of the machine pen craze before the ever domineering Pilot G2 just became the de facto. And kind of the reason why it was the Hi-tec-c was the fact that until there were some later versions, effectively there was not a quality pen for this very quality refill. I would say there's probably better ink now, but this is, once you get a good one and you get it going, very satisfying to write with. The pen size they came out with, which is the pen type A. And shortly after the pen type A, Capless Customs put themselves on the map. I think they had done some like speeder stuff previously, but they really put themselves on the map with their Capless Render K. Squeers has my original, gifted it to him. So this is the pen type A. That is how I found out about CW&T. They're really cool. Have both an art and an engineering background. Super interesting. If I lived, I think they're out of New York, they might have moved, or at least have multiple places. I'd be interested in doing one of their like artist camps and stuff like that. My brain is fried at the moment. I cannot remember the actual term used for that. But this is an original made in China, and you're like, isn't all those made in the US? Well, they purposely made the original in China, because they had never manufactured something in China before, and they wanted to see how it went. Needless to say, it went like shit. Nothing to their fault necessarily. Like the big story behind it is they hired a place that basically said, we make sure that the factory that is manufacturing your product doesn't steal your design. That company then proceeded to steal their design. So this is the original pen type A. I always kind of was like, it's hard to pocket carry this. This is very much a desk pen. And I think it was Chewe agreed with me. And you can see one actually before this was fully released, where all the pointed edges of this were ground off. Right? All of them. Just taken to a grinder. Right? So that is when pen type B became a thing. And this became fully manufactured in the US. This is an original launch pen type B. You can see some things harder, probably due to some cats or me being clumsy, have dented the brass here. It's, this is all stainless steel. Love stainless steel as a, like a lot of you are like, titanium, titanium, titanium. For me, stainless steel is the one thing that tops. It's heavier than titanium, that's for sure, but the quality and the feel of it, it's not as dry as the titanium is. And those that have pens or other EDC objects in all of them will probably understand that. This is the pen type B. So it is also stainless steel pen, right? In a brass sleeve, right? And this end is added on later because there's actually now a magnet in the bottom. This was just using the pneumatic action. That's why it falls out like that. This was later updated to have some of the updates that came in the pen type B. Like there's actually like a rubber stopper in here that emulates what the Hi-tec-c has in the cap. That actually caps off the refill. Otherwise, the Hi-tec-c, when stored tip down, tends to pee itself or diarrhea itself, however you want to say that. And then there's actually a donut magnet in the tip that this is stainless steel, right? But the tip and the cap are ferrous stainless steel. So that when they go to the donut magnet, it's magnetic. And then it wraps around this tip so that when you carry it around, now that it's portable, it doesn't fall out. So one thing I've always kind of like had my eye on was I have many pen type Bs, right? Many. In fact, here's an updated titanium. I have the original titanium, which is tumbled and chrome, I believe. This is a later one, which is a DLC coated. So this is much lighter because this pen is fully titanium and the sheath is. And then it's DLC coated. Why bring this one out? Well, we've got something special right here. You can probably tell what PTA 001 is. Pen type A. I have not, because the pen type B is more my jam. I have not bought a new pen type A since the original, and I've always been interested in the improvements that they made. Like this is one of the original Chinese ones. Because of that, the pen does not actually interchange. Once they're all made in the US, from my understanding, all of the pens from the pen type A, B, etc., all interchange from all the different sleeves. That was something else interesting about the brass guy, is in order to make this, they actually had to go to a machine shop that had a tool for drilling barrels in order to get that straight, because you might have heard that little pop. In order to get that kind of also starts the refill a little bit from my experience. In order to get that fitment that good, where it's sort of this like piston effect, right? And I'm sure you could get it even tighter. But with that brass tube, they had to use a bore drilling machine for a rifle. So pick these up. You might have seen it on some of my other, like my bags and some of the other stuff. I was out of them, I just use these to identify, like, say at work, we all get given the same backpack. Slap one of these on there, I know which one's mine. And this sort of bright orange is kind of my secondary color. Oh, you've seen it in my Tuck HD here. My first would be like yellow, very similar to that guy. It's like a sunburst yellow. You've probably seen all my Keras customs. I have a full line of pens from them. I have every one of them finally they made. I wish I could have that out, but the kitten tips it over. And type A. What I don't remember is CW&T.com. It's literally spelled the way it is, CW&T.com. Spell out the and. I don't remember on this pen type A, if I go over to the black one, if it's stainless, black Cerakote, I think just the outer is, yep, all stainless steel still. Okay. I didn't know because this was done in DLC coat, and the DLC is diamond like carbon. Normally you would only do that for titanium, right? So you can see the process there. My preferred one of those is actually a very limited orange one that they accidentally oversold, so it took far longer than expected to come out. And this one's, it's like this high, like this would be, that is optimal orange for me. High gloss. Now this one does have, I've dropped it on the end a couple times, and the kitten did that one. Knocked it off onto something or knocked something off onto it. I forget which, but hey, beautiful pen. Oh, because of the titanium, the actual pen itself feels very dry. But because of the gloss Cerakote on the outside, that feels very slick. It's an interesting dichotomy of that pen. So let's take our little notebook. We're not going to write in this one for testing. We're probably just going to use sticky notes or something. They got their fancy rubber band. It looks like an O-ring. Maybe it's an O-ring. EPDM. So there you go. Minimal everyday pen plus ruler sleeve. Stainless steel, 124 grams. USA, yep. Minimal pen. I do appreciate their product simplicity. I would argue some other companies out there, if you look at my Studio Neat Mark 1, not only kind of get their design of the product vibe, it's so, I don't know how you can, it's so dry. Like, it's so dry. If you can hear that. It's like a super ultra matte Cerakote. Wow. I wonder how that'll hold up. It looks amazing though. So this engraving, I don't know if that's done as an engraving or an etch, but it's in silver. Now back here where they did my personalization with the Prophecyst, it's pretty sleek and hidden. That is so dry to, oh, beautiful. Yep, they have the donut, magnetic donut in there. Oh, and you can see high gloss here. That's an amazing contrast to that black. But you have the tip, which is this matte finish. Right? Ass end is also that matte finish. My guess is they couldn't polish it or easily because it's that, oh yeah. See, this doesn't have that same effect nearly. And I should point out for the original, on Shapeways, it will not work for this guy unless they've modified the file. Okay, but, and this is how I actually carried it for a while at Geek Squad when this came out. Back when I was doing a lot of writing. Because everything was still done on paper, at least for general, like unless it was going someplace else to a different store or into service or something like that, it was still all handwritten. Still was last time I heard. It might have changed in very recent times. But because I showed you that they later came up with this, how they prototyped this, but was a 3D printed. So they actually had on Shapeways a 3D printed version of this sleeve, right? Both in full length and in like third length. Like it would just be a cap you'd pull. And I have both of these for the original pen type A. Now, when I picked this up, this is considerably thinner, and I can prove that. This will not fit in there. Will it? I don't want to go too far. So is this the... Yeah. No fit. And there isn't a magnet on this guy. So that's a carryover from the pen type B back to the pen type A, is that magnet. Whereas with the original pen type A, all that was holding it in was kind of the pressure. And you pull it because the seal was good enough. That's also what slowed its descent. So it just didn't go like boom. Was the I did this many. Everything is a fidget when you want it to be, right? So this guy is kind of like a combination of the two. I didn't realize I was getting this nice chrome machine, like polished pen, right? If I measure this, oh wait, I can measure it, because what's this? That's a ruler. It should be 5 inches. 4.5, probably just over 5 if you go to the tip. And this is what they found to be the optimal length, right? If you go to Keros Customs, what they later found to be an optimal length is when they went to the EDK, it was 5 inches. The modal is basically the same length as an EDK, except with a longer refill in it. Also 5 inches. So this sort of, it's long enough to protrude far enough out back here, but not too long that you're waggling like like the original TI2 pen, which was made for the Hi-tec-c, also quite long comparatively. Still use that actually, probably more carry than this. Just because until they made the B, this is not very portable. Like I said, you get a lot of pocket pricks, and I used to carry it in my pocket still, even though, and it would poke you through the internal liner of your pocket, right? Let's see, does it go in this way too? Because that looks, my guess is they produce the pens for either the A or the B. There's also a C. I actually don't know where mine are at the moment. I have 2 or 3 C's. They're actually designed as, like, say if you were carrying this, you would clip a C to the front of it because it's a bookmark pen. It takes the Hi-tec-c Coletto. I legitimately do not know where. I should have gray, a black, and an orange or a yellow. You might have even seen them on the channel before. I'll have to, when I clean up, look around for them because I've got no idea. I used to always just leave them in applicable notebooks, but I don't even know where those would be at the moment. Maybe there's one by my couch, because I always used to handwrite. I'd watch enough anime where I couldn't keep track, right? And I would write in the notebook so I would know what episode I was on, especially when that was before I started watching seasonal stuff. Or with that, it's pretty easy because it's just like, but I would actually like, or I'd watch some, and then some of those, especially when you're rewatching some of the older stuff and you're getting 50, 60 plus, 70 plus episodes in, you might want to take a break and watch a different show. So I'd write down like, yep, I'm here. I'd scratch it off, or like stuff like that. What movies in a series. Really don't keep that up anymore ever since I switched to, switch to watching season. I'll still watch old anime. But it's more of a, what am I feeling to rewatch sort of thing. And then I might still put it in the notebook, because a lot of that, like I'll get to a certain point, just like I do with video games. I can only do that, life comes in. You can only do that for so often, so long, and you might want to pick it up again later. But this is very, very chrome shiny, polished. I wasn't expecting that. This one, who knows? It might have been much more polished at some point, but I have heavily used this pen type B. Comparatively, I would say I do have a just straight titanium one, not used as much. This DLC, also you can see barely worn by comparison. Now this is titanium, so it's not going to wear in the same way, right? The orange one, however, is at least internally looking about like this. That's the reason why I want to use a brass, is you can see the patina, where I put my grubby paws to open it up. There's specifically like more color change and patina happening up here, where I would be, grabbing it with my grubby paws, and it's much more tarnished down at the bottom where there's less handling, or it would be in the bottom of my pocket, might be hitting my keys, AirPods, that sort of stuff. Still flat on there, so it doesn't roll away. Because like I said, this idea came from literally taking one of these and just grinding them down, right? And that would have provided flats. So I am pumped to finally have a updated pen type A. Let's ask my watch. Maybe it knows. What year did the CW&T pen type A Kickstarter finish? There you go. 2011. 15 years. If the AI is correct. So 15 years ago, this guy started a whole whack ton of stuff happening. For those wondering as well, jet pens, which we've talked about before on this channel, they started because of the Hi-tec-c as well. There wouldn't be. They basically were going to college. They liked the Hi-tec-c for doing college notes and all that sort of stuff. Then other people saw them using them, liked them, wanted them. They were importing them to their dorm rooms and selling them out of there. Then that became their company. So, and it's not that CW&T didn't exist before then, but they kind of put the whole machined like gel pen on the map. Prior to that, I would say there's like wood stuff, bone, like antler. Maybe there were machine pens, but I personally can't think of it. Even out of Parker, like there might have been some one-off space pen stuff. Parker would have kind of been the main, but to have something, and like I said, the reason why this got made is because The Hi-tec-c is just a clear crystal gel stick pen, right? And they wanted something nicer to use. The one thing I do notice that was flipped, and maybe this is China versus US, and I'll zoom on in for you, is the markings. So on this one, probably because this is how you're going to use it most here, the Imperial is on this edge because you would be holding this, at least this is my understanding of it, based on use and interpreting, right? So you're going to use this, and you're going to put this down with this hand and control it, and you go, and you measure. So that would be the more common edge to use. Whereas the other way, that would be if you're a lefty. So they're saying if you're a lefty that you'd prefer, most people are going to be righties, most people are going to hold this like this, and they're going to use that edge because it's primarily a product sold in the US. But the original had it opposite. And I'm trying to remember, I think one of them might be a lefty, so that might be why. But the, if you hold it with right-handed, the metric side is first. There is more prominent when you get it. So that, at least for me, is a way to distinguish. I don't know when they changed that. You'd have to, like, go back and look. But the fitment, much looser. Now, remember, this thing's 15 years old, so maybe it's worn some of that away. But the new guy, you can't even hear it come out. Like the fitment of this, there isn't any. It's gosh darn silent. I'm sure we can make it pop. Yep. Beautiful product, beautiful piece of machinery. Like I said, if you've seen Studio&T, I actually thought, I was like, oh, somebody knocked off their design, until I realized it was actually a click design. But some of their packaging leans heavy into sort of this sort of packaging. All of CW&T stuff has this sort of design here with like the model it is. That's how their pictures are done too. They have a border with that on. Very thoughtful, purposeful. Like I said, they have a mix of a like engineering background as well as a art one. So I think they really do make a premium product. And unlike like I said, I from what I could tell, at least with like Studio&T with their Mark 1 and then later Mark 2, Mark 3, at least the Mark 1, that the original one I got, the aluminum one, compared to their original Kickstarter, was a downgrade. Like, they made it cheaper and easier to produce, whereas some of this I'm sure has been done to make it easier to produce here, right? But it's all improvements. Like, they improved from this guy to later the titanium one, to then the DLC coated one, to then Cerakote. I don't remember when this came in by comparison. Like when the pen type A got updated with sort of the same magnetic tip that the pen type B has, and the ferrous front and back, right? But unlike some other places that may downgrade or make it cheaper to make, as far as I've experienced, it's only been improvements and refinements. So one thing cool about the Mark 1 from Studio&T, though, is it does have a clip now. They did add that, so that's kind of interesting. I probably will never buy I might buy a clipped Mark 1, but I now own another very nice Cerakoted green one that Paisley tipped the pen holder over on and dropped a titanium pen, I believe, on it, or the entire pen holder. Took a chunk out of that one. Paisley's my kitten, for those that haven't seen other videos. But the stainless steel one from them, it feels like they made a completely different pen. The aluminum feels all gritty, cheap.
Stainless steel one, smooth. Now, maybe that's because I went limited edition. Not sure there, but I prefer stainless anyway. So I didn't know if this was going to be. It's so dry. This Cerakote is so matte, so dry. I can almost guarantee that other things like skin cells are going to rub off on this. And because it is this such matte Cerakote, the matte Cerakote, the glossy seems to chip, right? And the matte seems to wear. And a great example of that is my Tuck HD here that has wear on this corner, which is the cutting corner, right? A little wear on this upper corner right there. And then where even my finger rubs, like the hard edges that get used. Still beautiful. That just has, in my opinion, that just adds character. Now, when it's character from being dumped off a multiple foot high thing and other heavy things and or harder things being dropped on top of it, dang animals, can't have anything nice, right? So let me know what you guys think. Would you ever consider a pen type A? Can you think of any brands that predate this that have this sort of machined metal pen vibe? I mean, you have to remember, outside of this, what also came out of this? The TI2 pen. That was also Hi-tec-c. Later on switched to Uniball for their TI2 design then, where originally the entire company was TI2 pen, then they went to TI2 design because he did other EDC stuff. Then they made the TI2 tech liner using the Uniball. But then eventually, even they, who purposely choose to use Hi-tec-c, then Uniball, went to the the Pilot G2. Technically the Parker refill is a G2 in their sizing as well. And that is because the US just has a hard-on for the Pilot G2. Even though it's the most, it writes fine, okay? Like, when it came out in the 90s, like, I sought it out even back then. Because, like, prior to that, almost all of the gel ink was not click style, right? It was stick, right? Your Jelly Roll, your Soccer Jelly. I don't know if you know if those were branded Soccer in the US. I think the brand was Jelly Roll. But they're Soccer Jelly Rolls. That was a huge one. You know, that was maybe not as big as Pokemon cards, but you know, same era, same time. So G2 being click. Now the G2 is basically, I'm not going to say it's like a Bic pen, but it is the Bic pen of gel pens. Okay, can I call it that? And you'll just like at work, you'll just find them, or even at like school, they'll be like 3/4 used up ones just tossed aside because somebody forgot it or something, you know. Whereas when they were new, even to have one of those was pretty. And now every brand has a gel pen. Companies make knockoffs of, like Chinese companies make knockoffs of the Muji, which is using either a Zebra or a Uniball. The Sharpie gel pen is literally their take on multiple different brands. Now I assume unpatented designs, because one is I think the 0.7. I'm trying to remember. They have different tips for each size too. So they have what other brands would have entire lines with multiple tip sizes, like needlepoint, conical point, rollerball, conical roller, like needleball rollerball, conical rollerball. I think I got the Squares gave me a 0.3 or a 0.38 needle tip click Sharpie pen gel, right? Because technically the Sharpie pen is a felt tip. That was innovative. There are other felt tip pens, but I used to use those all the time because they were one of the few felt tip pens that didn't bleed through. I used to love writing them. I have entire notebooks and draw, like both writing notebooks and drawing notebooks that are all done with the Sharpie pen felt. The only issue I ended up really having with those was that where the cap came off the body, I would grip right on that seam, and that was kind of uncomfortable. But they wrote amazing. But now the Sharpie pen gel, both the Rollerball and the Click one, or Cap style and Click style, both of those are variants of Uniball, Pilots, I would say Uniball or Zebra, and then because it's literally the Uniball Euro 110 size, and then it goes down to that conical tip is either going to be a Pilot or a well, it'd be a Pilot, because it'd either be it wouldn't be a juice up. It'd probably be something closer to like a Hi-tec-c. There's also the Energel ones, which are actually not conical, needle tips. Let me grab. I think I have one that Squeers gave me. Yeah. So here, check this out. I didn't even notice. 0.38. So they're pulling Uniball sizing, but Uniball doesn't do a needle tip like that where it steps down. That's much more of a like Energel style. So, in here, for those that don't believe me, as much as this is like marketed as a US pen, right? That is a Euro 110 refill right there. The only thing you have to do that's different is, so it fits their spring better, is there's these little guys on the side there. They used to be bigger on older refills. They used to go all the, like, at least halfway, if not more. And you just slice those off with your utility knife or X-Acto. What they do is, because this is a skinnier spring, whereas the G2 is a thicker one, those just hold tighter, so there isn't play in the tip of that refill. But yeah, all the Sharpie pens, so people like all the things, people that like Sharpie pens. I know people that say like, oh, they're goated, blah blah. Now that isn't something interesting about a Sharpie pen. On the Uniballs, generally the wall thickness will vary depending on the refill. The smaller the refill tip size, the smaller the hole in the back. If you watch the OG Brad video, where you actually have to use a small enough refill, otherwise the mechanism goes through the refill or into the refill. Oh, here, you guys want to see? There's a picture of a Zento. Yeah. So it's you have people that love, oh, I love the Sharpie pen, blah blah blah. That's literally derived. Hey, we're well past a lot of these patents. But they didn't come up with any of that. They literally mashed, in my opinion, better refill brands with sort of like the G2 body. And came out with something popular. I mean, in my opinion, the refill's fine. There are better ones, but that's readily accessible in the US in giant packs of them. Like, I have 10 and 20 packs early on. That's the only way you could get it. So, I prefer a 0.4. There you go. It takes a little bit to start up a Hi-tec-c after it's been dormant for a while. That's definitely a 0.3. I definitely prefer a 0.4. Yeah. There we go. We're cooking now. That might also be a 0.3 to be truthful. That's also a bent tip. That's the one of, I shouldn't say a one downside. That is one of the the downsides of needle points like the Hi-tec-c. You can see that the tip is bent, which is part of the reason why it's probably writing like poop. Oh, it's writing better than more, right? But yeah, the bent tip, you can even see when it gets bent often, around the seam of the needle point, it'll start leaking out because it's not coming out of the tip right. Often if they still write fine, I just keep rocking them, especially with a lot of these pens. I don't use them that often. See, look, that one's perfectly clean and not bent. That's my pen type B. That one wrote right away too. And you can tell that that's a 0.4. See, 0.4 up top there versus 0.3 there. As you can see, the pen type A needs a new refill because that tip's bent. It's very easy to pick that up, at least in my opinion. Oh, this is so much lighter. Oh, yep. Look at that. That means it starts writing even quicker. That might be a 0.5 that's in there right now. I noticed that it had a pretty big tip comparatively. All right. Oh, here, if you have them, they just mated their butts together. Yeah, and you might be able to see there, that is why some people, Squares is a 0.3 or even a 0.2 person. Now, some of the refills may flow a little bit better than this one is. You know, who knows how long it's been sitting. But that boldness difference between the 0.4 and the 0.3 is why I go 0.4. Now, once you start going to a standard size sticky note, in my opinion, now there are two ways to kind of use sticky notes, right? You write one big note on there. You can use a Sharpie for that. Actually, I prefer it. Or like a 1.0 or 1.2, 1.3, 2.0 millimeter pen, right? If you're writing one big note. The other way that I tend to use them, as you might be seeing floating around here, is I might put minimum 2, if not 4, if not 6 items, like a list on here, right? The difference between that 0.4 and a 0.5 is like an entire row on a sticky note, right? And the issue with going down to 0.3 a lot of the time, or even smaller, like the Uniball equivalent would be 0.28, depending on the quality of the paper, the tip actually starts getting stuck in it a little bit, like you can feel it. To me, it seems like these ones without the lines are made out of finer grained paper. I don't know what you would call that. I shouldn't say I don't know. I actually do. I just don't remember. Whereas these are 3 inch. No, not 3 inch. No, I was correct. 3 inch, and these are 4 inch with the lines. And I don't know if they use a coarser paper because they gotta get the lines printed or what. But that's my thoughts on that. Let me know which refill size you guys like down below. We got a guy at work that I just constantly feed all the G2 refills. He's got one of the we got him Squares got him a retract. Actually, you've seen Shane on here before. He built this PC. We got him a retract, and I just keep feeding him. He's got boxes of G2 refills, and he prefers the 0.7s. I'm like, bro, you crazy. But hey, then I don't have to use them, right? questions, comments, throw them down below. I'd appreciate if you guys hit that subscribe button and let me know what you think about what I would consider the OG or an updated version of the OG. We've been at this a while. I was going to say I definitely wasn't doing YouTube videos back then. I actually might have been. They just might have not been posted onto this channel. Whew. I doubt there's one on this. I don't think. I think it would have been mainly mice and peripherals back then. Because I had a whopping 3 pens after multiple years. Whereas now, I swear 3 can come in a month. Peace.